How's it going, YouTube? Skylar, North Georgia Piper, coming to you from the garage this evening. I don't know if y'all heard that, but there's a bad storm headed our way tonight. My wife warned me about it, and go figure it would start right after I hit the go button. But anyhow, I am enjoying a bowl of Gentleman Color. Um, it's a Burley, Virginia Perique blend with deer tone. If you've been around here any length of time, you know I've gotten stuck on this a few times. It's one of those blends that doesn't typically see a jar. Actually, I could about swore that I never saw a jar at all. I don't remember ever not finishing a tin of it, but lo and behold, I opened up the cellar to just grab a jar of something different tonight, and there was a jar, full jar of Gentleman Color from 2024. I would have to venture that it was probably from when I first got it. I tried a bowl and then set it aside in a jar, because ever since then, like I said, there hadn't been a tin that's been safe around me. I like it that much. It is such a good blend. Really good way to break a unintentional fast from the pipe. I have not had a pipe in over a week. Oh, it's been busy, I tell you what. We spent 7 days at the beach. Yeah. That's a long beach trip. We went down a week ago Saturday. We went with pretty much all my in-laws. My mother-in-law, father-in-law, my mother-in-law's parents, my wife's cousin and his girlfriend, and then our brother-in-law came down with us with his two girls as well. And then my wife's sister came down Monday, so we had a whole horde of people there. It was a busy time, but we got all the way down there, and then Sunday evening, come to find out, my wife's cousin's girlfriend had been exposed to COVID at work, and she was showing signs. Exhaustion, scratchy throat, those type of signs. And of course, having little children there, my niece who's like 9 months old, my daughter who's a year old, my other niece who's like a year and a half old, my son who's 3 years old with very bad asthma. Hopefully y'all can hear me over that downpour that's coming down out there right now. But anyhow, with all them little children, we made her take a COVID test, and of course it came back positive. So my wife's grandparents ended up packing up and taking her cousin and his girlfriend back up to Kentucky. So sadly, they didn't get to enjoy a beach trip. But we made the most of it. We had a good time. Ate good food, cooked good food, got some sun. Did a lot of swimming. There's a swimming pool at the beach house we go to. This is the second year in a row we went to that same beach house. And I like it well enough. It's about a block from Beachfront Road, so you just have to walk a block before you're at the public access right there. So it's not terrible. But I decided not to take my pipe last week. And to be honest with you, there was only one time all week last week where I was like, hey, I could probably go out for a pipe had I brought it. So it was just that busy with all the kids. I'll tell you what, my kids had a blast though. My nieces are still kindly on the fence with the beach. They're still little enough, particularly my youngest niece, that the heat gets to her a little bit more. Now my kids, they are some beach bums. They will waller and dig in the sand, splash in the ocean. My son reminded me of myself when I was his age. My wife, I don't think when she was little, I think she's the same way she is now. She's not big on fishing, like swimming with fish. She loves fish, loves looking at them, but she does not like swimming with them. If there's any chance of a creature touching her, she doesn't want to swim with it, hardly at all. So thankfully our son does not have that fear. He'd go down on the edge of the water and sit in the surf. That's what I used to do when I was little. It'd just blow you back and then pull you in and blow you back. But yeah, they had an amazing time. We had a great week. And then we come back this past Saturday. We were there for a week. And then yesterday, we loaded the car back up and drove back down to Atlanta. I told my wife, I was like, well, I wish we had the money to just spend the night Saturday night in Atlanta. I ain't gonna lie. But, I mean, it ain't terrible. It's an hour and 15, hour and a half away from us to Atlanta. So, we drove back down to Atlanta yesterday and went and saw the Wiggles. I don't know how many of y'all, your kids or even yourself have watched the Wiggles. The Wiggles have been around. They announced this is their 35th year. It's kind of an Australian children's show. I don't recall watching it as a kid. My wife grew up on the Wiggles. She loved the Wiggles growing up. Her favorite episode was the Wiggles Safari with Steve Irwin. And and my kids have grown up with the Wiggles, but it was a blast. We had a good time. It was really neat to see the people that you see on TV, and quite honestly, it confused our son a lot. He kept looking at them and looking at me like, are those the people? I'm like, yeah, those are the people that you watch on TV. He just couldn't get his little brain around it. It was cute and funny, but once he warmed up to the fact that those were indeed the Wiggles that he watches on TV, then he had his fun. One of them is actually the original, has been doing it for over 35 years, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, I'm very thankful that we got my kids watching that. It's a good, clean show for the kids. We were so worried because of just the junk that they push in kids shows these days, just absolute disgustingness that they try to push on our children. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but we were worried about it with our kids. We're like, we don't want them watching that, you know. And then we were recalling, we're like, well, they closed, most of the shows that we watched growing up were really clean, and they weren't so stimulating. So we broke out Franklin, Bear in the Big Blue House. My son likes Blue's Clues. He likes to go and find clues around the house. His favorite show is, same as me when I was his age, Scooby-Doo. Of course, they have some of those shows have some not so morally straight episodes these days, but we watch the old ones, like the Scooby-Doo from the 70s and up through the early 2000s, the ones that I watched a lot. So, and you can't go wrong with Bear in the Big Blue House. I haven't seen a single one of those episodes that ever went amiss. I heard Sesame Street is one that you want to avoid nowadays, unless you're watching the older episodes. But nonetheless, my wife, when we were talking about shows to watch, I listed off some of mine, she listed off some of hers, and the Wiggles was one of them. So we went down and saw them and had a great time. Really. I mean, you can't replace those memories. I mean, my son may vaguely remember that when he gets older, but a lot of those things are for really my wife and I to experience with them and remember. I'm sure when they get older, they'll remember watching the Wiggles, and maybe they'll come back to Atlanta sometime, or somewhere closer like Chattanooga, and we'll be able to go see them when they're a little bit older, and we know that they'll remember it. Kind of the same sense with Disney down in Florida. Every year when we're on vacation with the in-laws, they toss around ideas of something fun to do next year. And someone had brought up Disney, which the main reason we've never taken the kids to Disney is we want them to remember it. For us to pay for it, we want them to remember it. But my mother-in-law was like, it'd be fun for us to go for us to experience it with our kids. Which I get that too. I get that too. But we'll do that one of these days. I don't think some of them have never been to Disney. My wife went to Disney the summer after she graduated high school. She went with a friend, I think. And then we went a couple of times when we were little with my family. Not my wife, I didn't know her then, but my parents took my sister and I. And one trip we went with one group of our childhood friends, and the other trip we went with another group of our childhood friends. I really remember that second one the most. I was probably about little man's age. I was probably I was older than him. I was about 5 or 6. But anyway, we had a good time back then. And then when I was in high school, my senior year, you do a senior trip. And my parents paid for me to go on my senior trip, and it was a week at Disney. There was a day or so at Universal as well, but we went down to Disney for a week, and that was, I was a little skeptical. I was like, yeah, I want to go to say I went really and had fun, but I was afraid that my parents would get their money's worth out of it for me, pretty much. But after we got there, I mean, yeah, we were 18-year-old boys. I mean, we're men, you know. Disney's just Disney. Oh no, that ain't so. We turned into little kids again. I swear, me and some of my friends rode the Winnie the Pooh ride 3 or 4 times just because there's no line. We just Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. I mean, it brings you back to, a lot of that stuff takes you back to a time that just doesn't exist anymore. And it's crazy to think that these days, or my kids are going to look back at these days like that. In 100 years, kids are going to look back at how my kids were raised, just the same as we look back at kids in the 1920s. It's just time moves on. There was an old country song like that. Time marches on. But anyhow, it was nice to get away from the house and enjoy time with family and with the kids. My wife and I didn't really, I think, realize how much we needed a vacation until we were gone. Just something to break the cycle. She's a stay-at-home mom. We wouldn't have it any other way. She's the best mom I could have ever asked for my kids. And then I wouldn't ask for anything other than being able to work from home. I'm very blessed with that. But it does come with the fact that we are always here. Always here. And there's a little nerve that rubs raw over time. Being constantly surrounded by projects. Do this, do that, do this, do that. Constantly having to do stuff. Get off work at home just to work at home. And you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Stuff that I remember when I worked in an office or when I used to work warehouse work and stuff or construction. Coming home was refreshing, you know, because work and home was separate. So we really needed that vacation. And then my wife always says she lives her best life at the beach. I'm the other way around. I live my best life in the mountains. But I do enjoy the beach. But anyhow, talking about keeping work and home a little separate, I know I've mentioned it before, but the old shed that I used to make videos in is going to be eventually, hopefully, my office. And now that we're back from vacation, the only thing that really stands before us is my son's birthday. And other than that, I plan on starting to get to work on that shed, hopefully. I gotta clean out some more stuff out of it. I gotta take all the shelves off the wall. There's a few holes from where extension cords were, holes were drilled so they could go through. I gotta patch holes. There's a sliver where I can see daylight. Now the rain and weather doesn't come in, but I can see daylight in the morning when the sun's hitting the front of the shed. So I'm thinking I'm gonna get some Flex Seal and seal up all the corners in there. I've already got electrical boxes. It's got receptacles and stuff like that, but I'm going to put a main power box in there. It's got 120 going out there, so I'm going to put a main and then a sub panel above the main. And then should I ever be able to afford it, I'm going to run 220 out there, and that's going to cost a lot of money with cable. Copper is not cheap, and I'd hire somebody to run it out there probably. But all I'd have to do with the boxes that I have is switch out the main breaker to a 220 breaker. And I may go ahead and put it in there. It'd be able to carry 120. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just rambling now. But I'm going to do all that and hopefully start all that. And maybe by next summer, hopefully we'll be out there. The only problem with that is I hopefully will have at least the sheetrock and flooring done and everything painted and ready. The only thing that hold me back then would be getting a split unit put in. I figured out that they do make split units that run off of 120 that are both heating and AC units. So, but they're not cheap. So that would probably be the one thing that would hold me back from actually moving out there by summertime. We shall see. But well, it's probably been about a month since I made a video. And I've done about a month's worth of rambling here. This is good tobacco, so I'm going to go enjoy it. Maybe even load up another bowl and watch this thunderstorm that's starting to roll in here. I hear the thunder rolling in. But anyhow, catch y'all again next time as long as the Lord wills and the creek don't rise. God bless.